Hi, I'm Lou Scott, and this is the Geppetto Room, where you don't have to be creative to be creative. You just have to be you. This is a show about where we share ideas about making better decisions, transformative decisions, in order to make our future better. Now, there's a proverb, which you're probably all familiar with. It says, curiosity killed the cat. Well, what it's saying to us is warning us that intense interest, intense inquisitiveness will put you in trouble or make problems for you. Now, interesting about that is that proverb first appeared in the 16th century in a play, but it read differently. It meant something different. What it said was care killed the cat. And care meant worry, stress. So that's what it meant at that time. That was the original proverb. Now, care, stress killing the cat or killing you, causing problems? Absolutely, absolutely. That's a big problem. You can ask any medical personnel today, and they'll tell you that 80% of all disease states are stressful. Now, on the other hand, curiosity, inquisitiveness, being interested in everything doesn't cause problems. It is a fundamental principle of innovative thinking. It stimulates the brain, it stimulates the synapse, it stimulates all the cells in your brain. It makes it easier for you to make better decisions because you're stimulated, your brain is stimulated. Now let me describe that for a minute. At one point in time in another show, I said that the brain has this capability and was measured by this number, 10 to the 800th power. Now that's a big number. It's bigger than there are stars in a galaxy. But however, just recently, I read another article by neurologists, and it seemed to be even more fantastic a brain ability. And listen to this number. They said that the brain has 100 billion neurons, 100 billion neurons plus 100 trillion, with a T, trillion synapses. Combined in that network has the capability. That number's got to be bigger than all the stars in the galaxy. So just imagine if we could tap into those synapses, tap into those pathways better than we're doing now, what kind of decisions we can make, innovative decisions, transformative decisions. That's what we have to do. Now, we're not geniuses. I'm not a genius. There are very few geniuses out there. Genius is rare. Genius is very rare. So we're not geniuses. However, we share a common attribute of all geniuses. And what's that attribute? Curiosity. Every genius that we know of had an intense curiosity, an amazing, he was interested in everything. Any subject, anything that could bring input into them, that's why they were genius, and they became more geniuses after they were born. Now, let me give you an example. Leonardo da Vinci was a genius among geniuses. His father noticed that he was a pretty good painter as a child. And what he did is he apprenticed him to a well-known painter at the time. And short period of time, Leonardo da Vinci was far superior to his teacher and far superior to most painters. This is the man that created the Mona Lisa. This is the man that painted the Last Supper and hundreds of other masterpieces. Now, was Leonardo da Vinci a painter? No. He was far, far more than that. He had a curiosity, and he wanted to know about the curiosity of 10,000 men. He was interested in everything. Listen, if you looked up in the sky, and 600 years ago, he started to make drawings of airplanes because he was looking at airplanes, parachutes. He'd look at the sea, and he'd come up with ideas of submarines. He looked at stairways, and he originated some of the ideas for escalators, and on and on and on. You name any subject, he was interested in geology, any subject, architecture, weaponry, so forth. He invented things because he was curious about everything. Now, is there a downside? Well, yes, geniuses have a downside because we'll never capture the intensity of a genius, however. But Leonardo da Vinci had such a curiosity that many times a patron would come, that was his livelihood, would come to him and say, do a particular project. He would start the project. But if something happened or something piqued his curiosity, he was gone. He never finished the project. Or it would take so long, it would aggravate all his patrons. But he was so good, he had patrons anyway. So moderation, obviously, is a curiosity. But however, curiosity is the foundation. It's one of the principles of good thinking. It goes along with getting out of your comfort zone and making decisions that are good for everybody. Now, with all that said, let's get to the dioramas. Now, you know how the diorama works. I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you a story about how I created it, what the diorama depicts. And in that story, what we're trying to do is create new pathways in your brain. Pathways that you will use when you have to make decisions, and innovative decisions, which we all have to make. At one point in time, I'll step forward and I'll say, this is a Geppetto moment. A Geppetto moment, I'm going to share with you an experience, a methodology, something that happened to me, something, a lifestyle change that will help you, you can put in your toolbox, that will help you make better decisions, make transformative decisions easier for you. That's the whole purpose, Geppetto moments. Now let's go to the first diorama. The first diorama I call Mrs. Fricke. Now it's funny. Now Mrs. Fricke was the Wicked Witch of the West, only she lived in Brooklyn when I was 10 years old. She was the monster of Bensonhurst. She was angry, she was vile, she yelled, and she continually called the police. One of the things that really bothered me was if my ball went in her yard, she wouldn't give me the ball back. And she'd sig the dogs on you if you tried to go back in there. If you walked too close to her bushes, she called the police. If you made too much noise while you were playing, we were only 10 years old, she called the police. Eventually, we started to call the police because it's the only way to get our ball back. In fact, I heard this story, I don't know how true it is. I heard this story that once the policeman asked her for my ball, and she wouldn't give it to him. So he gave her a ticket for not giving him a ball. I didn't know there was a law like that, but I got my ball back. Anyway, that was Mrs. Fricke. Now, Mrs. Fricke would continually do this all through the year, except one day. That one day was the chance of the kids in the neighborhood to get even with the monster of the neighborhood, and that was Cabbage Night on Halloween. I can't tell you some of the things that the older guys did. I was only 10. Older guys did it. They were dirty. They were terrible. I'm not going to get involved in that. However, I'm going to tell you one incident that happened one year when I was 10 years old on Cabbage Night. The older guys came to us and they showed us these large firecrackers, and they told us what we wanted to do is wrap them up and put a long fuse. Now, why? Mrs. Fricke had a herd of plastic flamingos in her yard. A herd, whatever, maybe a gaggle, whatever you call a herd. What we were going to do, they told us to sneak in, which I really loved the idea, war picture. I snuck in like that, and we wrapped them around some of the legs and some of the heads and so forth, and we ran this fuse back to the older guys, and the older guys were going to show us, how to light them, and we all stood up back, and there we were going to see, we're going to crack a few of the, that's what I thought, crack a few of the flamingos. Well, about 8 seconds later, an explosion happened. I hadn't heard anything like that other than in movies. It was a huge explosion. Half her porch collapsed. Many of her windows broke. Windows in the neighborhood broke. All the lights came on in the neighborhood. Fire engine, I don't know what, I broke the 100-yard dash because I ran to my house so quickly and hid in my bedroom. And everybody was chaos. Now, 2 or 3 days later, I heard that the police came with the bomb squad, and they were looking for the people who hid the bomb. That was me. I didn't go out for 3 days. I thought they were going to capture me and put a 10-year-old boy in penitentiary, but it passed over. Mrs. Fricke left the neighborhood, sold the house, left the neighborhood very quickly. So would I. If you try to bomb me, I would leave the house. Now, that's the story of Mrs. Fricke. That's the depiction. What's the Geppetto moment? The Geppetto moment is a meditative exercise. You don't have to learn meditation, but the exercise is this. You lay on the floor or in a comfortable chair on a bed, and you relax each part of your body, telling each part of your body, for example, your arm is heavy, your arm is warm, and feel the warmth, feel the heaviness. Do it for every part of your body, your head, your arm, your leg. My leg is warm, my leg is heavy. Feel your whole body collapsing through the floor or the bed. That relaxing exercise frees up a lot of neurons in your brain, takes away a lot of barriers. You'll find yourself after doing that a few times that you'll be more creative. It sounds silly, but it really works. It's a meditation technique you don't have to learn. It's easy to do, and it's very relaxing. Try it. Put it in your toolbox. Now, this is the second diorama, and I call this the suicide suite. Now, I'm not an advocate of suicide, but however, I can feel great compassion for people who are in chronic pain, people who have terminal illnesses, and then people who just want to go to heaven first. They want to go there and make a better place for themselves or make a better place for somebody else. Who are we to say? I developed this piece because I didn't like the idea that laws and governments tells me when I can commit my suicide, as long as I don't hurt anybody. They don't live my life, why should they live my death? That's why I did the piece. And then I got more absurd. I said, imagine an entrepreneur who would establish in a city suicide suites. This particular one is for hanging, and then you'd have one for poisoning, and you'd have one for shooting. And then you would have music, you would have food, you would have people coming there, the cashier would be there. It would be like a funeral ritual, only you're alive, at least for a short time. When the suicide came, you would suicide, and now it sounds absurd. But it's no more absurd than somebody telling me that what I have to do with my life, and that's why I did the piece. Now, what's the Geppetto Moment? The Geppetto Moment, and this sounds just as silly, but it really works. Read the dictionary. The English language has about 60,000 words. The average person, even the average well-known writer, uses less than 1,000. If you sit periodically and read 5 or 6 words, listen to the definition, read the definition, never heard, it's going to stimulate your brain. It's going to stimulate the mindset. You're going to make new pathways. And you'll learn new words. Now here's another addition to it. If you take 4 or 5 words, put them on your mirror where you do your morning rituals, and look at them, memorize the words. You are generating interest in your own brain. Also, you're improving your vocabulary. If you can use those words 2 or 3 times during that week, you own them, meaning that you will increase your vocabulary. That's one of the benefits of this particular technique. Read the dictionary periodically. It opens up a lot of mindsets that you can use for transformative decisions, which we're all about. Now let's go to the third one. I call this Knights. Now, medieval times, I took a course in medieval time. Took a course in medieval history, and obviously we all watch movies. And when I found out after I took the course that whatever you heard in the movies is not true. Not true. The medieval times was not chivalry, was not adulation of women. It was none of that stuff. It was cruel, it was rude, it was dirty. Let me give you an example. Most knights were young boys out of work. If they were attached to a manor house, person who owned the land, and there was a war, they got paid. Otherwise, they didn't get paid. So they would run around the countryside wreaking havoc, or they would go to tournaments, maybe to help them prove their martial arts. However, to earn money, they needed money. Now, when they stayed at the manor house, talk about honor, there was no honor. They used to make bets, knights, this is a fact. You won't see this in Hollywood. They would make bets to see who could seduce all the women of the court. And the best, largest bet, largest seduction was who could seduce the wife of the owner of the manor house. That was the Middle Ages, not what Hollywood said. Not what Hollywood said. In fact, there's another thing about that which you'll find interesting. Periodically, certain owners would allow the knights to attack the serfs. Not kill them, because farmers were very important. Attack the serfs, just practicing, knocking them over, whatever they did, havoc and so forth, to keep their skills up. And poor serfs, the farmers and so forth. So it wasn't a very nice time. That's why I did this particular piece, and I did many medieval pieces, because it fascinated to me what the reality is. Now, what's the Geppetto Moment. This is a very important Geppetto Moment. If you're going to make a transformative decision that's not ordinary, an innovative decision, you have to ask the right questions. Let me give you an example. If you say you lived in Rutland, and you know that hundreds of thousands of skiers pass through Rutland and go up skiing in Killington, and you say to yourself, how can I get them to come back and stay in Rutland to support us, to support our businesses and so forth? Now, that's the wrong question. The right question would be, what is missing at Killington that we could supply in Rutland? What is missing in this vacation that they might not have in where they come from, New Jersey, New York, whatever the case might be? Those are the right questions. Understanding that customer, understanding that potential, asking the right questions is critical for innovative thinking, transformative thinking. Now, coming to the end, what have we covered? We covered another principle, curiosity. Develop your curiosity. Be interested in everything. Be interested in everything. It stimulates the brain. And stimulating the brain, you'll make better decisions. We covered reading a dictionary. We covered an exercise, a relaxing exercise that not only relaxes you, okay, removes the barriers, but makes you more creative. And most importantly, we covered the idea of asking the right questions. Very important. Now, what is the Geppetto Challenge? Vermont is made up of a German word and a French word, verd meaning green, and mont meaning mountain, green mountain. It's a natural theme for this idea. What we want to be able to do is support our businesses, our local businesses and towns. Yes, we do. They have a theme. They say buy local, buy local, buy local. Well, here's an idea that maybe add an initiative, an incentive to that theme. Why don't we give away green stamps? Remember green stamp? Maybe the younger people wouldn't remember. Green stamp was you make a purchase and you would get a stamp. It would be worth a certain thing. And you put it in this book. And when you filled out the book, and many books, you could turn them in for prizes and awards and so forth. It's a customer appreciation thing, but it's not necessarily about money. It's gifts. And what we could do is, with the green stamps, only make them available via our hometown businesses. So people would have more initiative, more incentive actually, to buy from home locally. That's it. Now look, there's only one idea. What I'm saying is that there's many ideas, many concepts to add what we talked about, panache to downtown, excitement, interest, and so forth, and supporting our economy, which we have to do. One idea. Now, if you have similar ideas, send them to me and we'll discuss them. If you don't want to do that, send them to the legislators and tell the legislators that Vermont needs innovative, transformative ideas, not ordinary ideas, not traditional ideas. Now, if you're lucky enough, appropriate enough to make decisions like that, then make them transformatively. Think about using these tools, and if you don't remember these tools, then call me. I'll help you remember that. That brings us to the end. I want to remind you that next episode, I'm going to review some of the nine Geppetto moments that we covered in the last 3 shows. And just to kind of get you up to feeling about some of the new ideas that you might have forgotten. With that said, I'm Lou Scott. This is the Geppetto Room, where you don't have to be creative to be creative. You just have to be you. Thank you very much.